Welcome, everybody, to the Future Belongs to Creative podcast. I am your host, Charles. I'm my regular co-host, Miguel and Haley. But honestly, no offense to you, I am more excited today to introduce our guest. You might have heard us in previous episodes reference someone in the live chat called Teddy, and we have that very Teddy with us today. Welcome to the show, Teddy.
Thank you. I am so pumped to be here, like in the voice version. I was telling Charlie before we got on, it's like I feel like Jumanji, and I like came out of the game, but I came out of the live chat, and I'm like here for a podcast. So I'm super pumped about it. How are
We're
you
excited
guys?
to have you here. And why I'm really excited to have Teddy on is because I feel like you are such a good example of networking, right? Like this is going to be our topic today. We're going to talk about networking as a creator and like ways you can do that by sharing your work. But I feel like, Teddy, you've made the leap from fan to friend, which is something that is hard to do when you are a creator who is like a fan of a fellow creator. And I know you're going to have a lot of really good advice to share for like how that happened and how you became like friend of the show and friend of ConvertKit and everyone here.
Absolutely. Definitely good stories. Hopefully some good advice. Going from fan to friend, I think that's the perfect that's a great way of saying it. And definitely something that's been super fun, a crazy, fun journey. So absolutely. And I know Charlie, we've talked about networking a lot before, and it's kind of like the networking. That's where everybody has their thoughts on it. Yeah, it's literally just like making friends. So I'm super excited to talk about it.
Yeah, Miguel, Haley, what are your thoughts on having Teddy on the show today? Haley's
out
just
of the chat into the pod. Look at him go! Yeah, yes. No, this is exciting. I've only really even heard Teddy's voice in that video that he made a couple months back. So actually getting to chat with Teddy a little bit and deep dive a little bit more into some of his creator journey is going to be really exciting. So I hope you're ready, Teddy, because we're going to grill you.
I'm pumped. I'm a little nervous because it's my first live podcast, but I think I'm less nervous than you were on your first one. I remember.
Oh, no doubt.
You were coming in for the Q&A, so you had no idea what was exact. There wasn't necessarily a plan or any of that. But yeah, we'll see if I hold it together. I don't know.
Yeah, my first one was with Nathan, the CEO of our company, so it's a live podcast with the CEO. Yep. So I'm like, if I screw this up, I'm like, my ass is fired, So
you're like nervously sipping your Chick-fil-A beverage, just like,
wow. You remember what I ate for lunch that day. Wow.
He's a fan.
I remember it specifically, maybe better than almost any episode, because that was I don't know if Charlie, you've gone back and watched it, but I know Haley, I think we've talked about it or like a little bit in the chat, but that was the episode. Charlie had just come out with her video for getting her promotion, and like Nathan and Miguel were talking about it, referenced it, and he's like, yeah, Nathan goes, I'll grab the link to the video right here. Then actually, Teddy, I know you've go get the link for us and put it in here. Like, go. And Miguel's like, what's happening? Just like, and I'm like, all right, I'm on it. So that's why I remember.
Nathan's got a guy on the inside. He's like, a mole has infiltrated the chat. It was cool.
He was like, it just came out this morning, but Teddy, I know you've watched it, so go get it for me. It's like so funny.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous because the first live video that Teddy posted to YouTube was actually at my expense. So like what's gonna happen in a live setting with Teddy in here? So I'm supposed to be one of the hosts of the show, which means I shouldn't. But Teddy, I'm nervous.
What's going on? We can tell. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's going to be fine. I promise. Shall we start? I feel like we've covered Teddy as the fan. We're aware that he is a fan of the Future Belongs to Creators. What about who you are as a creator, though, Teddy? How about you introduce yourself to the people?
Sounds good. Well, the quick story is I work full time, so I've kind of similar to the side hustle, main hustle type thing that Charlie has going on. I work at a construction company kind of as a generalist designer, website designer, and that sort of thing. But I'm also very into kind of being, I almost call it like a creator career, which is separate, like, and kind of working on that. So I do, have, and a lot of it's been like kind of getting started with this show, but been experimenting with, I've done a lot of freelance work as a creator, a lot of kind of full, from design to doing the little bit of CSS and sort of like customizing it to full websites. but I'll like trying to graduate out of that, I think, into more of a the types of creators that we talk about on the show. And so I'm in the early stages of that, working on the newsletter and this kind of building that audience. And so it's been good.
I love that. So like content creator, like creating educational materials, inspirational, what sort of things
so
can people expect?
Sure. I guess one thing that I at my CrossFit gym, I do all the kind of YouTube video, that sort of thing and that's new. I picked up my camera to make that first YouTube video and then like started doing this like it's not really freelance, but it's that type of content, kind of like the Instagram video type short YouTube. That I also definitely like I've started a little design newsletter and sort of that, and really trying to kind of take what I've learned in like the professional world and sort of apply it to like creative side projects and that sort of a thing. So that's sort of the audience, I guess. We were going to talk about like where I'm at as a creator. It's definitely in the early stages in terms of where I'm at as a creator, earning a living on my own. I'm a lot more advanced in the 9-to-5 job, but a lot of that overlaps, I guess is what I'm saying. So I'm trying to figure out. I think I'm experimenting with different like kind of platforms right now.
I love that. I love that we're getting to talk to you at this stage of your journey too. And I hope that, we can check back in over time and see how you go.
Yes,
but that's one of the cool things I think we can do on this show. Yeah. What are some goals you have for the creating side of things?
Ooh, okay. Love the goals.
5-year plan, please. Or 10-year if you're feeling
plan.
bold.
Exactly. I think short term, like I want to, there's kind of the I want to have like an email. Like I've been growing my email list. I think I want to get to like 1,000 of my own, like growing my own. I've grown an email list, like kind of the company ones that I've worked for and that sort of thing. And our gym one, actually, we've like built a really big gym newsletter, but I haven't really focused on my own. And so I have to like, my goal is to really build, kind of like my personal audience, I guess, and that would be the short, medium term goal. But like long term, I really, have you seen the movie Moneyball? Like, or read it? Like, you know what I'm talking about, Miguel?
Yes.
Long term, if we're talking big goals, I love that sort of like changing the game, or sort of kind of like, how they kind of reinvented the way to, everybody looked at baseball and the game was changed. That's sort of like the big, having the big goals. Like when I work at a construction company, it's about the exact opposite as tech in terms of like the adoption curve. So like that's been a really interesting project in terms of like making change. You talk about like Charlie, like, oh, can't we make design decisions because it's cool? Like instead of doing all data. And I'm like, to pretty much like everybody over, it's like, this is what an A/B test is. It's like, we're actually like, it's not about the blue. So that's been a really cool, it's taken several years, but like kind of changing a little bit of the company culture and that. So I want to do that in terms of like a creative career outside of that. So that's the small and the big goal.
Oh, I love that. Go ahead, Miguel.
No, I was just going to say that's fantastic. I mean, it's really pretty cool to be able to. I mean, so I struggle with this too, which is you have the thing that you're passionate about, and unfortunately, the thing that you're really passionate about isn't always necessarily your main line of work. So the fact that you have to give your creative outlet sort of like this like sidelined approach, because you want to make sure you give it your all in your 9-to-5, the thing that pays the bills and everything. So finding the inspiration and the energy and the drive to show up for that side hustle is something that I tend to struggle with sometimes, because I'm not great at prioritizing those things, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and it's hard for me to. I don't even engage in things unless I'm sure I'm going to do them really well. So I just wonder, do you struggle with that at all, Teddy? Kind of juggling that 9-to-5, but also because I mean, you're here every week for the show, and I mean that's the kind of level of dedication that I wish.
Except for the last 3 weeks.
Well, yeah. Oh, burn. Well, Teddy, I'll let you take that one.
No, I deserve all the Haley heat that I get in this episode for sure. But if you want to count like total episodes, Haley, like that we've been to, we'll go with that. But no, that's I think. So I guess the question is, Miguel, like struggling with like the perfectionist or like wanting it to be. I absolutely have that. I have so many freaking newsletters and blog posts that I've written that haven't been like just haven't hit published or like have like halfway written and be like, oh, this is like, and throw it away because it's like, oh, it's not that good. And there's been so many times I need to remember it, like where I'm like, I like the ones where I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna hit publish. Like I want to redo it, or I don't think it's gonna resonate, and I hit it, just like whatever, hit it. Those have really been the ones I've done thought would do the worst. Pieces that kind of have done absolutely the best and resonated with people and like opened doors, created a lot of it. Like, and it's this build in public. It's like sharing some of the stuff on Twitter. So like, I definitely struggle with it. And I need to keep reminding myself to like get over that and kind of like, it's kind of the minimum viable product. I also think I struggle with like trying to be like Charlie and be like, dude, all the different platforms, like all, like, and then I lose, I've only done my one YouTube video. I got to get back on that, Twitter and all that. So that's where I definitely see the being excited about all the different avenues and then not totally, they always say like commit to one social platform first. And that.
Yeah. At some point we got to get out of our own way, like, it's like the thing I always tell myself is like, that everybody knows is don't let perfection be the enemy of progress or whatever. I'm probably misquoting that, but it's the spirit of that is, I mean, the spirit of that is, if you're sitting there and you've written all these things and you never hit publish because it's not perfect. I mean, I play the guitar and I've dabbled with writing music, and I can't tell you how many songs I've gotten through like 1 minute or 2 minutes of the way through and just thrown it away because I'm like, it sounded better in my head. This sounds like total shit. No thanks. And then I just like forget it. Or I have like so many half-written songs that I could, if you stitched them all together, it would probably be like this like grand opera of half failures. But really, I mean, I sometimes, and then the things that I'm just like, I'm going to write a song to make my wife laugh are the ones that I just don't give a shit about. And I'm just like writing about silly things that my dog and my cat is doing. And she's like, that's incredible. That was super funny. And I'm like, all right, so maybe I just am taking myself too seriously. So
I absolutely resonate with that.
Can you share an example, Teddy, of one of those things that you like were like, essentially, I'm going to put words in your mouth here, like, fuck it, and hit post. There we go. Drop the F-bomb for the episode. I always get it in there. Yes. Can you, share an example of what one of those was and how you took that build in public approach?
Absolutely. I made a diagram, like a webinar flow diagram that featured a grayscale font. And it was like just this crazy mess of things. And it was actually based on like when Sean McCabe came on with Nathan, did a question and answer. And I like asked him like, what would you do about the webinar? Basically just did this. And it took a little bit of like, it was in Figma, it made no sense to anybody else. And I posted it out there and was like, this is my webinar flow that it's probably not even, I was like totally a beginner at it. I was doing it for work, posted it out there. And I was so like, it was exactly like you were just saying, Miguel. Like I got like 2/3 of the way through it. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going with it anymore. And like, and I kind of got almost done. And then I like put it into the Twitter I mentioned. I'm like, no, I can't. And like did it. And then I published it, tweeted it or whatever. And oh my gosh, you talk about working in public and kind of growing your network and that sort of thing. That was a huge, that was the first time I talked to you. Like Charlie, we had interacted on Twitter and a little bit. That was like one of our first, like, hey, look at like this is, this is a feature in the work. And like, that was the first time that I like Rafal Tamal was like, hey, like, this is really cool. Thanks for using this. And like, that was the first time I talked to him and like this bunch of where I'm at today would not have happened if I didn't tweet that. I'll put it at the top of my Twitter after this, if you guys want to go look at it. It's like makes no sense to anybody except for like myself. I feel like, but you can get the gist of it, but it's, people are like, this is really good. Like how this helps me like think through what I've been trying to do and that sort of thing. And I remember vividly like agonizing.
What was the context of the post? Did you post, and apologies, I'm still learning how to tweet, but
You'll learn that after you learn what sus means, right? It's next on the list.
Yes. Was the context of it you coming out and saying, I like being more vulnerable about it and being like, this is this thing that I'm working on? Or was the context of you coming out like with that post saying like, this is what I figured out, because I think there's so many people find it's why Charlie said that she really is enjoying the fact or excited about that we're getting the chance to talk to you at this stage in your career, because at this stage is going to look so different from 1 year from now. And I think that people are just really drawn to people that are willing to post or willing to share when they are in a more insecure place, right? Because you're actually following a journey. Yeah, you're following a journey, right? And you're not pretending that you're something that you're not. And I think that in this, as a creator, so many people are trying to pretend that they're something that they're not. Or maybe they are that, but they're just not at a point in their career where they consider themselves to be an authority on a topic. So they don't post because they're not confident in the work that they're doing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I liked your YouTube video, was because you were saying like, this is my first YouTube video, right? Like you weren't you were just being totally where you were at, and you were talking about where you were at. And it was just like, it was such an honest, funny video. It wasn't like you coming on to be like, this is, who I like, someone that you're not. You were exactly who you were. Like when I saw that video, I was like, this is totally Teddy from the chat, like that's exactly who I expected you to be, which I loved.
Yes, it was Haley. It was very much along those lines in terms of like the you were talking about it last week with the live stream, Charlie, like how Twitch encourages like more I don't know if more authenticity, but sort of along those lines that are like not trying to pretend like you have the picture painted perfectly while you're like showing it. Can I share my screen? Does that work here? Like,
if you send me a link, I can bring it up on screen.
Okay, I will. Yeah. I will send you the link right now. And the let me do there, Charlie.
Let's make you multitask.
Yes.
Basically, Teddy's acting like he's in the chat right now, right? Like he's like, I gotta type something, I gotta send something into chat.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot going, but yes, like Haley, I said it. It was. I was trying to think out visually what some of the advice that Sean and Nathan had given me on this webinar it was like a real project that was happening in 2 weeks for work. And like I said, kind of like version 1, lots to do. That sort of, I don't know if I was like being I guess vulnerable is a good word, but I was like disclaiming like, this is, I have no idea. I kind of being like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And there's probably lots to add and that sort of a thing. And this just kind of, goes into a little bit of the, like sharing like your work in progress, the work in public, networking, that sort of thing. It kind of builds on all of this in the sense of that there was part of me that wanted to think it through. Like this actually helped me just in my job. Part 2 would be like, Sean and Nathan talked about it for like a long, like 20, it was the first answer that they did. They spent a lot of time on it. And I did want to be like, hey, I didn't just like ask that and like nothing, it was a way of demonstrating like, hey, I'm like putting this into practice, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I then sent this to like, our business development team, which is about 10 or so people, like kind of send it out to like, this is it was during COVID where a construction company webinars weren't really like a thing for us beforehand. Like this is basically all these different things here on the left hand of the screen are like different, like, people at the company, like driving traffic to the webinar landing page. And so like, it was also a tool to like communicate with and be like, what's the, kind of getting feedback from as well. And so but easily the scariest part was tweeting it. I didn't care about sending it to my coworkers.
Right. Because that's the thing you do all the time as a, design professional.
Yes.
I think that I can spot several things as to why you had success with like this version of sharing. One, there was like an image to it, and like, sharing your work is visually and seeing it is always going to be better than just talking about it. I think having a visual to look at. I love that you tagged both Sean McCabe and Nathan in your tweet about it. That's showing to them, like you said, that you were listening and you were taking action. And I think that helps solidify you in their mind as someone who is more than just like a casual listener, right? Obviously. you're taking action. And it's cool that this generated conversations for you and was this like start of some networking as well.
So if you like scroll down just a little bit on the side, so like that was the bottom one, was just curious what you built that flow diagram. And I was like, I use this tool from Rafal Tamal, who's like, and we know, I guess, like fabulous designer. Well, and like he saw it and then like messaged me. He's like, hey, this is great. Like, would you do you have any more examples like that? If you send them to me, I'd love to feature them on like my sales page for the tool. I'm like, this is great. Like, like as a designer, I was like, whoa, this is that's when the networking kind of making friends sort of like, I was like, wow, I was so close to never just showing this to anybody. It's pretty surreal and that led to like several, we can talk about the Barrett project too, but this was definitely the stepping stones towards that for sure. And so that's an example, a long example, but we can, I think we can do the no share. Yes.
He's like, please stop looking at my drawing.
So did that answer the questions?
Yes, I think absolutely. And you know what I'm thinking now as well, as a creator on the side of, the creator you've become a friend with through this whole like networking process you've been doing. It shows me just how much even a small interaction can mean to someone. And like, what it can change and how, step by step. This is what we say about networking, right? It's like little thing on little thing. It doesn't have to be something huge for it to be successful.
Yeah, and it's not. I love it, Noah. My buddy,
Eddie's on the podcast.
This is awesome. I'm like trying. I'm now living the live chat coming in while we're. And it's not. I knew it's not easy, but it's definitely. I'm getting close to my level. So actually, how do you maintain your energy, Teddy, from Vamp Box? That is a good question.
Teddy's running the show now.
Yes, it goes ups and downs. You definitely, for me, show it like we've talked about, like showing up to this podcast live most weeks, and how that's a big time commitment and like energy wise and doing that. And it's sort of at the beginning it certainly was like, oh, remember to do like go and like let's participate and yada yada. By the 50th episode, 70, whatever it is, it was second nature. It was Monday and Friday at 12 o'clock. And it really the energy, a lot of these tasks is at the beginning, getting the habits established sort of a thing. So that's one way. Another thing is to like, I'm a big fan of, if I had not, I did that diagram that we just showed. I like designed it all in like one, it's pretty simple, but designed it all in one sitting and tweeted it. If I had taken a break, I don't know if it would have gotten out. So on the things that you can get out in like one, Twitter's a great tool for that. But getting, if it's small enough to start and finish in one sitting, I try to do that to go back to what Miguel was saying, to avoid the, it's 2/3 done. Like, is it not? I don't think it's good enough. I don't want to share it. That's where, and I go through that no matter what I'm doing. But if I put a big pause, whether it's a day or, a week, it gets lower and lower. So I try to, when the energy, I don't wait around for it, but if I do have inspiration, I try to capitalize on creating something and getting it out there. So that's one question in the chat. I'll come back to more. But
love it.
Yeah. I guess the networking thing too, like none of this, we were just talking about like, little bits and steps and this sort of thing. It was so, I think like the best networking, and we talked about the beginning, it's kind of like making friends, like sort of, if you're going to play a game of Among Us, who would the 9 other people be that you would want to go play, that sort of a like thing, like that sort of mindset, friends, like, Barrett and Nathan actually talked about it really great. Like you don't know me, but I think we would be good friends if you did it. Like that was sort of their approach to networking. And it's sort of, like I did not, when I showed up to my first episode of this, I wasn't like, ooh, hit list, like network.
Okay, because that was going to be a question that I had. It was like, it felt like you were really intentional about joining the live chat for every show. And I'm curious to know if Nathan and Barrett were, like people who you were like, I would love to, count them as a friend, have them as part of my network. And this is going to be I think like this could be a way to make that happen.
So I think it evolved to that. to answer your question, but that was the why I showed up on day 1 and why I showed up on day 20 was not, that was not that. And it wasn't, I didn't even know, like, this is my first like live chat, streaming experience. So in the early days, I really didn't even know what I was getting myself into, but it definitely like, the natural opportunities that like when Nathan, I guess Nathan put me up as like a creator of the day, one of the days, which was super cool. That was like back in, I think, July. So almost a year ago. And I was like, wow, that was so cool. And then it's like, I have 20 Twitter followers. And then you get a little like notification, like Nathan Barry follows you. Like, that was cool. That was interesting. And that was like, so that sort of like, as that evolved, like there were like intentional choices, but it was all,
I don't think we have to be like ashamed of it being intentional either. Like, I would just say this if any part of you was feeling that way. I go to conferences these days or like YouTube events or whatever. And if I know who else is attending, I have a hit list of like the people that I want to spend time with, because as an introvert, I have limited energy for being around people. I want to make sure I'm spending it on the people that I'm most interested in being around. I do this for our ConvertKit team retreats as well. I'm like, I need to have one-on-one time with this person, this person, this person to make it all happen.
Yes.
It's important to be intentional about it, and I think there's no.
That's why I never talk to Charlie in the retreats. I'm not.
Well, that's because you don't like talking about the way in the treat, Miguel.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I'm just kidding. I just thought I'd mess with you a little.
Yeah, I gotcha. Hey, like I said, not ashamed about it.
To be honest, while we're not being ashamed of it, like Charlie, you were definitely at the top. Like if there was like a spectrum here, I was like Barrett, Nathan. It was kind of funny, but like Barrett, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I actually didn't know that much about Barrett before the way more about Nathan than Barrett, which
that makes sense.
But yeah, but like when I was like, ooh, like it was like when we were like playing Among Us, or I was like, Charlie, I'm gonna like, yes, Charlie, we're gonna.
That's what I was fishing for. Thank you.
Yes. So as like maybe from your point of view, I would say it felt probably more like the intentional, like and so for like you, I would say yes.
Okay. Well, in that case, what advice can you maybe give to any other creators out there who have creators who are in their niche, or they're doing cool things and they really would like to get to know them, to ask advice from them, to just be their friend? What should they do?
So if you have a creator that you look up to in your niche that does like this streaming, or it's giving an opportunity to participate, so this is kind of like the work in public to participate in public, which I don't know if that makes exact sense, but like if your favorite musician who you want to get on like ConvertKit is like doing a Q&A, like ask a question. Or if your favorite, YouTuber for fashion is like, hey, I'm doing a live stream, like don't show up and just watch it. Show up and like ask a question, to participate in the chat and like get that started. That is absolutely. I was so scared when I submitted my first question to the show with Barrett. Like I was like, oh, like people are just gonna think it's like it's like I'm gonna ask it. People are gonna think it's silly. Barrett's gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is such a basic question. My boss is gonna see it. My boss is gonna be like, Teddy, you're silly. Then you go like, then I'm gonna get fired. Can't get it. That's whole Seth Godin. He does a great like analogy of that. Like you gotta get over the first fear of asking the first question. That's absolutely the first piece of advice. And like building off that, I would say like it's really important to, in a genuine way, like if you are gonna ask a question, or do you like use like buy like a creator's product, digital product, like, and you're going to use it like for real life purpose, it doesn't even have to be like for business or for whatever, but like share it and use it, like be like, hey, I'm not just asking you a random question, or I'm not just, this isn't theoretical, and I'm like participating and kind of showing that. It's like in the genuine, these are people in my mind that you like already look up to and know very well. So like, if that's already in place, I think it's really hard to get ignored forever, assuming they're not just like some crazy huge, millions and millions and millions of people follow them or whatever. And
well, something to point out too, Teddy, is as someone who is hosting a podcast that has a chat that goes along with it, believe it or not, we thrive on the chat. The chat's a big part of the show because it keeps it keeps us anchored to the audience and the people that we're trying to interact with. It keeps us keeps us from rambling a little bit, I would say, and it keeps us a little bit more laser focused sometimes, but it keeps us more laser focused on things. And so when someone asks a question, I can't remember ever thinking, oh, what a stupid question, no matter how basic it is, because first of all, what I feel as a host, and I think you ladies would as well, is when I see something in the chat, I get excited. I never think, oh, what a dumb question. Even if it's the most basic question in the world, I get excited about that too, because that signals to me that, well, maybe I am getting too specific about things. And some people just want some real basic information and they feel, maybe I'm putting up an accidental wall because I'm getting too specific about things. And then people feel left out, like, oh, this is too specific of a conversation. I'm just starting out. This isn't for me. So I would just, put that to fear. I put those fears to rest. Just to say that hosts thrive on feedback, and it kind of tells us which direction we're supposed to go in. Nobody ever thinks, oh, this person doesn't get it, they need to get out of here. So
I think to me, I don't think it's all that much different from what Nathan and Barrett were doing for you or Charlie has done for you. I think you were doing for them, which is ultimately you were serving them, which I think that they recognized. You were serving and supporting the thing that they were trying to do. And I think that that's one of the things that is really easily recognizable, right? Like you showed up and you supported the mission, you supported the thing, you shared the stuff that they were doing, and you applied the stuff that they were teaching. And in turn, that was you serving the mission that they were trying to do. And I think that that's like, there's two parties that show up to both of these shows, right? Like there's the host and there's the attendees, and both have equal importance. And I think that was recognized, which is why when you just like disappeared, we were like, where's Teddy? Because all of a sudden, you were missed in a,
yes, that's a nice way to put it. Yeah,
you were, no, it was that we recognized your presence was missing.
Yes.
If that's the way. And granted, maybe there's not hundreds of people that show up to the podcast live, but no, I mean, there's a decent amount, and it definitely changes and varies, but we get the most of the viewership after it airs, which makes sense considering that you have to show up live, right? But I think that is a really special thing that you did for this podcast specifically, and Nathan and Barrett obviously recognized it, which ultimately caused you to do exactly what you're trying to do, right? Is further your career by doing work for Nathan or Barrett because he trusted you,
Yeah. Tell us more about that, Teddy.
Yeah. So that was, I mean, to reiterate what Haley Miguel just said, like if you're on the fence about asking your first question or participating for your first time, Miguel said it so well in the sense of like, nobody's going to think you're stupid. So do it, ask the question. And like we found out, because I asked a lot of questions after that. After the first one, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't die. I can ask more questions. And it's like, it just takes kind of getting the ball rolling and that sort of a thing. So do that. And the first, I asked questions to Barrett, which evolved into like what we'll talk about next, which is this really cool design project that I was working on with Barrett and Tanya, and kind of Barrett's side hustle, side project, Farm to Closet, which was just a crazy, crazy trip. And so the story is, if we showed that diagram earlier, the next evolution of that was like, Rafal actually has like a different design tool. They came out with a version 1.2. It's like had all these updates. I'm like, okay, I got to go into Figma and like spend 4 or 5 hours, like kind of learning the tricks of the trade and do that. And I could have done all lorem ipsum and all that, not done it for, just my own, not even really had a target, just had no pictures and no audience and that sort of thing. But I was like, okay, I've been showing up to this podcast. I know Barrett very like well in terms of his like communication style. And like I was on his email list and they were talking about his paid newsletter. And I'm like, why would I not just do just practice on like Barrett? I can either do lorem ipsum or like do like, I have the copy. I have all these Barrett emails and tweets that I can go grab. I'm going to be designing it. I can grab a couple pictures of them. And I just like designed to like, it was working in public, like networking, but like sort of like being a little intentional about it, or they're just like not like practicing. It was to, I was not like, how can I get Barrett as a client? Wasn't the sort of thing. But then I like did it. I was like, okay, this turned out really cool, and I think I want to share it. And so I put it out there on Twitter, very much like the last one, and it got like that one got even a little bit more traction maybe than the previous one. I think I had, when I did the early diagram, I probably had 20 followers. This one, I think I was up to 40. So it got, some big boost.
100% increase.
It got like, this goes into the networking too. Like Rafal was like, this looks really, like tweeted back, like, this looks really great. Brian Gardner, who's a big designer, was like, hey, this looks really cool. Like, I'm like, whoa, this is too much, like, almost, you're like starstruck in terms of the designer sort of thing. And then Barrett's like, yo, send me a quote for this. This is awesome. I'm like, a quote? I don't even like, and so that sort of like, that's how it started. I was like, yo, I kind of don't really, I do a little freelance for the gym, but I don't even like have like a quote. I don't know how to do the quote, but I'll do it. Like, let's work. And he's like, we basically had this huge negotiation. I'm like, no, I'll do it for free. He's like, no, I'm going to give you all this, like, and we were like basically trying to, it was really funny. We were both like, that, how it's like, no, the price needs to be up here. We were going the opposite way. Bear was like, no, I'm going to give you this coaching session, this and this and this. Yes. And I'm like, no, that's too much. You're giving me like, it was super funny. And so that, like, that you go from a podcast listener to like working on a design project with Barrett. And it was like the coolest part about the project was like every Thursday, there was a 30-minute meeting. It was Barrett, Tanya, me, and Josh, who was his partner in it. And just like getting to, getting to like, get that experience with Barrett and like seeing how he works through things, and that's sort of a team. And like, it was really fun to, I'm kind of a team of one at work. We talk about marketing designers being like this a lot. And it was like, just so like such a cool experience, like work with Tanya, like somebody who like really gets it and like kind of has like, you guys know exactly how Barrett works and kind of, but it was supposed to be fun for him, and that's how we kept it. So it wasn't super serious, but it was just such a great learning experience. And so, I go from, this is the work in public, but you go from being terrified to ask a question to being like, hey, here's this like mock-up that I did, and it goes into like meetings and that sort of, it was a really, really, I never had that mapped out at the beginning, but it was a really cool experience, and learned a lot. Absolutely.
I think you need to give yourself more credit along this whole way for like, your skill level and all of this, but the intentionality of all of it in like, I don't know, I follow you on Twitter and I feel like I don't see you doing this for everyone. Like, I'm assuming there's a lot of creators that you follow and, you were specific to choose Barrett's content as the filler for the design you were practicing with, which was obviously a smart choice. And yeah, I love it. It's a cool origin story.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely a wild, fun origin story. And that's, I guess, to wrap up, like my advice, it would be step one, participate. Step two would be to like do some intentional work using what you learned, or like to help, you can do like a great landing page template for a, XYZ singer, like ABC band. But if you like do it like, hey, Kygo, this is like all your stuff, and like to send it to them and shit, like kind of be almost a little borderline, be like, whoa, why not? Like maybe scare them a little, be like, you did a lot of work, like a lot of work. A little bit.
Is that what you just said?
Yeah. Like scare them, like, dude, why did you do all this work? And it's like, actually, like, it's a natural product of like being aware and following your work and like doing, and it has to match up with the right skill set, like a designer or that sort of, there's 100 different ways to do it. And instead of being like, instead of doing a blog post about, in theory, be like, this is what I would do to help this specific person. And this is the thing that I made that like, if you hit publish now, it would work for you. And sounds like a lot of people ask me like, spec work, were you going to get charged? I'm like, I never crossed my mind at the beginning. So if you're like thinking like that, it's probably not the right person, like a person that you like look up to or networking. You're probably trying to network too hard at that point to get clients.
I think spec work, like doing work for free, is often when someone's said like, oh, I'm looking to hire someone to do this. Show me what you got, and I'll pick the best one. But what you were doing is like you said, you were going to design something anyway, so you might as well like help it achieve some other goals or further some relationships, even in small ways. And obviously it turned into some big ways, which was cool.
Yeah, like when Steph Curry's practicing threes, he's like being intentional. He's like, I'm gonna shoot this like I shoot it in the game, and instead of just doing like, oh, I'm gonna putz around and learn this thing, it's like, okay, I'm gonna put this, be intentional about it. And it was crazy journey after that. I'll tell you that much for sure.
I love that.
I'm like, there's so many nice things happening in the chat. I love it. So like,
everyone's excited to have Teddy on the show.
Yes.
I think that if I can sum up some things that I feel like I've learned from this as a creator with an audience is, just how much it can mean to someone to have even the smallest interaction, to make sure that you do recognize the people who show up repeatedly. Like if you had shown up to 50 episodes and Nathan and Barrett had never once mentioned you, like from having seen you in the chat, I don't think you would have stuck around till episode 122 that we're at now. You know, it's really important to recognize as a creator the people who show up for you again and again. It's just super important. And then also maybe the last thing is, like, to me, I just cannot imagine being afraid to ask a question. And that, like, right now I can't, right? But if I put myself in, my own shoes, maybe like 7 years ago when I started my YouTube journey, I probably would have been scared to be like in front of people, which is what it feels like if you ask a question in a live setting and it gets brought up on the screen, that's putting yourself out there. And I guess I'm so used to just like having my face and name on the internet now that I forget that. And so that's really important for me to remember as well, is that when someone's asking a question, maybe that's a big step for them. And so like treat it seriously.
Absolutely. I think for the more advanced creators like yourself, or somebody that is on the other end of that, that I think what you said is perfect advice. And I think it relates to the 1,000 true fans thing. A lot of people like, we're streaming and, we're only streaming to 20 people. And, a lot of people, I was listening to the Twitch episode this morning. I was like, a lot of people stream to nobody, or it's such a small audience. And it's like, if you get a comment, like a person that keeps showing up and that sort of thing, that's the easiest like path, I think, that I've experienced to be like, okay, this is like the true, so the super fan sort of thing. So the math is different on that sort of engagement, and it goes both ways for the creator and the aspiring creator, I guess.
Totally. Haley Miguel, any last questions for Teddy?
I do have one quick thing I want to say.
Go for it.
And it's not necessarily a question for Teddy. I just
more of a comment
in the spirit. Yeah, well, in the spirit of having somebody on here that's a regular in the chat, I just wanted to also call out Noah from CONVERTKIT, who's almost always here, if not always. And then
same with Melanie.
Melanie, is it Griesmer or Griesmer? I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but I just wanted to make sure you guys felt like you got a shout out too. And we noticed that you're always here, and it's always great to see you. And we miss you when you're not around too. So
Ryan too.
Ryan. And there's actually a few people that we usually see that I haven't seen yet today. So people come and go, but we notice, and we love the little mini community that we're building here. So maybe we'll just have a big like super fan episode where we have them all on. I'm just kidding.
Oh, that would be fun.
Roundtable alumni. That would be
no, but seriously, I think that there's so many podcasts out there that interview the big creators who are like already successful and they share their journey and that sort of thing. I think personally, it's so much more interesting often to hear from the people who are currently in the struggle, right? Who are at roadblocks and at a point in their creator journey where there is something that they can't quite crack, or I don't know, they're just like struggling to get started. I want to have those people on the show too, and talk about those things and help them through it. So if
plenty of other people shine the spotlight on the big people. So I like giving a stage to aspiring creators, not just the big people. So
yes. So if you're listening to this, start thinking of your questions and have them ready to go and ask these three wonderful creators and podcast hosts. Come with good questions, and then come, when you're choosing down, you're narrowing it down to your one question that you're going to ask from three. Be like, what could I build off of? An answer. Like, what am I doing already? Is it a question about a project that I'm already working on? And then go do it, share it in public, and keep coming back and interacting. And don't just show up live, but participate live. That's my advice.
I love it. I feel like that is great last advice to end on from Teddy there.
Thank you.
It's been so fun having you on the show, Teddy.
So fun. Pretty crazy. A super fun moment. Thank you so much for having me on. And I look forward to, keeping making some progress and reporting back on this creator journey. So thank you all.
And I look forward to the YouTube video you're going to make about this episode.
I got to get back on that. So I will. I have several YouTube ideas. So we'll start that going.
Just hit publish, Teddy. Just hit
Yes.
publish.
Publish. So if anyone was listening and has liked hearing from Teddy, which I'm sure you all have, follow him on Twitter. It's a great place to stay in touch. He is at Teddy Williams W there, and I'm assuming Teddy, though, on that they can find links to the other things that you work on.
Yes, you'll find the link in bio, which is to all the good stuff, the newsletter. So absolutely
Sign up for the newsletter. Okay, cool.
See everybody in the chat.
Thanks for being here, Teddy, and
week.
we'll have you back on in the future, and
Awesome.
we'll hear.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next time, everyone. Bye.